Before we're gonna talk about the D menu for Boxcutter, so Alt W to enable Boxcutter and D for D menu. Before we're gonna talk about all these options, we need to talk about how to actually use Boxcutter in order to create Boolean cuts on a mesh. So let's add a cube and let's see how this goes. It's really easy. Now by default, you're gonna be in box mode, which means the shape of the cutter is gonna be a box. And the basic cutter type is going to be cut, which is Boxcutter language for difference boolean. So when you're going to click, hold and drag, release it, then pull it down and click. Again, click, hold and drag, then release, then pull it down and click. This is going to create a difference boolean on your mesh. And by default, again, is going to be a box cut. Now, obviously, you got different shapes here, like a circle and n-gon. We're going to be talking about them later on. But that's the default cut. Now, if you want to change from this cut mode, which is difference boolean, to, let's say, a slice, a cut that's going to slice piece of a mesh, you can use shortcut keys. You don't really have to go to D menu and switch it here. So let's grab another cube and I'm going to show you. So let's create this cut here. And then before you apply the cutter, you press X to switch between different cut modes. You can also use specific shortcut keys like you see on the bottom here to enter different types of modes and cuts. So I can cycle between 4 major different booleans. So this one is difference, then it's slice, you can see here in the bottom. Then it's gonna be intersect, and lastly gonna be inset boolean, which is really interesting. And we're gonna be talking about them a bit more in depth later on. And back to difference. Now there are more cuts or type of cuts in Boxcutter. You also have join, knife, extract, and also make. But before we're gonna talk about these, let's talk about colors. Now each of these cutters you can see has its own color. So you know this difference boolean is red. This one is, I think it's yellow. I'm colorblind, I have no idea, I think it's yellow. Then you probably have red again or something, orange, whatever, and then you have blue. Anyway, they have different colors, okay? You can, by the way, set different colors to them if you want to. The point is that you cannot really see that well what kind of color you're working on. But you can change it by going to options, this cogwheel, and switch the display mode on the wires only and just turn it off. So when you switch it off, you're gonna be able to see the whole boolean. So watch now. Now we can see the whole entire shape of the boolean cut and also the color. So when I'm going to switch now between different types of boolean, it's way easier to see. Oh, this one is orange, I think. So you got the red, yellow, orange, I think, and blue, right? So there you go. Now I told you there are different types of booleans here, like for example, join, knife, extract, and make. So let me show you. Knife boolean is nothing else but just a knife, but it's way more advanced than knife in Blender because it's faster, more accurate, and way more fun to work with. So let me show you. If I'm going to draw a cut here and I'm going to press K for knife, which you see here, K for knife, I'm going to switch the cutter mode from difference to knife. And if I'm going to press space, so just click with my left mouse button, so let's press space, it's going to apply the cutter, right? And now I'm gonna have this, you know, knife cut here on my mesh with actual verts and edges, which is cool. And just so you know, you can also use Boxcutter in edit mode. So you can very precisely decide and define where you want your cuts to run. And it's really cool to work like that. All right, so now let's switch back to this cut here, the regular difference boolean, and I'm gonna show you the join cut. So if you're going to run a difference boolean and press J, you're gonna switch to join boolean, press space, and you're good to go. Now these last two are a bit different. They don't exist in Blender. It's extract and make. Let's talk about make first. So if you don't have anything selected, so you deselect this cube and you're gonna be drawing a cut somewhere here in space, you're gonna be creating shapes. That's how this cutter works. And it's really cool, especially when you're working with an n-gon cut, but I'm gonna show you later on what I mean, where we're gonna be talking about these other cuts here. And the extraction boolean is for extracting cuts to create custom boolean. A bit more advanced, but let me show you very quickly. So if I'm going to run a cut here like this and create some custom cut on, in that one, and maybe one more cut here like this, and let's say I wanted to repeat that cut on a different shape. What I can do is I can draw a shape that encompasses the entire cut. Press Y for extraction. You can see here Y for extraction, right? Click, and my box cutter gonna automatically switch from box to custom. And now I have a custom cutter assigned to my cuts. I can run this cut on a different mesh. And that's how you use extraction boolean. And if you want to go back to your regular boolean, you're going to switch it manually back to this cube boolean. Now, all these shapes, when I'm switching between them, you can also see that here on the top. All these different cuts and also settings for cuts that are similar to this menu. In fact, they're the same ones. This is why I told you that D menu is the most important, because it's literally composed of almost all of these tools, with few exceptions, that you're gonna be using for box cutting. So 99% of tools are within this menu. Sometimes it's just a bit more convenient to click here than just go to D menu. But what I'm trying to say is that, the tools here kind of repeat up here as well. So this is how you run booleans with Boxcutter. Now, obviously, there's way more to it. And in the next video, we're going to be diving a bit deeper into this menu, and I'm going to show you way more options and cool tricks with this menu and what you can actually do with booleans. Now, there's one more thing I want to mention here. It's quite important. So when I'm going to create a cube here and start cutting with whatever cut I want, you will notice here on the right-hand side in the collection section that Boxcutter is going to create a custom collection called cutters. So watch, see that? And all the cutters going to be stored in there, in that collection. It's really handy because if you see all the cutters on the mesh, which is usual vanilla behavior, it's really confusing at some point. But with Boxcutter creating this collection as a collection number 2, allows you to toggle them on and off with Shift 2, which is really convenient. In addition, you can recover cutters through hardups, but we're going to be talking about it when we'll be discussing the Q menu. But if you go to Q menu and click on Ever Scroll, you can use your mouse button the scroll button to scroll between cutters on a specific mesh. And you can see it just kind of cycles between them, and so does here. So this is really cool. You can click and recover a cutter and start working on it, which is really awesome. And press Shift 2 to hide them. So that's the basic Boolean management. So in any case, this should cover the basics of how to use cuts with Boxcutter. And in next video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about different shapes, and also I'll show you all kinds of nifty tricks that you can do with live cutters. And then we're going to dive deeper into all these D menu options and see what else we can do with Boxcutter. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.